Andy Dunne, it was an Ireland victory here tonight. Ireland 33, Italy 17 in their first warm-up game ahead of the World Cup. Overall, what did you make of the performance?
I think it was, overall the game itself probably mediocre. There were some good parts of the performance. There were no outstanding negatives, and I think that's important. You know, a month out from a World Cup, no significant injuries that we know of, no particularly outstanding performances in the positive side, but also I don't think anybody overly let themselves down. A little bit rusty for both sides, which is understandable after 6 weeks of pre-season. And overall, I'd imagine Farrell and the management are pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of lads got their chance tonight. Jack Crowley in particular, he got his first opportunity to start a fly half, obviously with Johnny Sexton suspended. How do you think he done?
Yeah, he's kind of has a presence that is hard to define, and that he's very confident. His body language is he's to the manner born. He doesn't look one bit nervous or perturbed about starting in an Ireland jersey at 10, and he certainly gives a sense of confidence in terms of how he moves around the field and how he conducts himself in terms of calls, management of his teammates around him. He looks very comfortable in that scenario. Now he only got 40 minutes. Again, he looked good. He got his kicks. He distributed well. He tried to pass out of the tackle, took the ball to the line a few times, and did his best to keep the ball alive. So he had a bit of variation in his attack as well, but we only saw 40 minutes. I think it was interesting was the second half change for Frawley enforced. I don't think it was. I mean, Jimmy O'Brien had certainly a very good first half at fullback, and it looked more that they wanted to give Frawley 40 minutes and really have a look at his capacity to see is he a running option at 10. I found that quite an interesting shift in tactics and selection choices. Certainly we've only got 3 warm-up games for the World Cup, so to give Frawley 40 minutes is effectively is 1/6 of the entire game time already at 10. Knowing that Sexton's obviously going to travel, who goes out of Crowley, Byrne and Frawley now, and you would have thought Crowley's a shoe-in, it looks like, and then could be down to one of the other two. So
okay, so you think Crowley's ahead of Ross Byrne at the minute?
I think quite possibly, based on his end to the season, winning the title with Munster, playing under such adversity, which is something that Farrell loves. We know that. I think Graham Rowntree highlighted that so many times, winning on the road 7 times, getting over the line in the semis, getting an important drop goal, that will have added hugely to his confidence and his presence within the team. You know, taking a trophy home as a 10 is important. As a quarterback, you're showing the capacity to deliver in key moments. So I think Byrne didn't do a whole lot wrong, other than having a slightly underwhelming final against La Rochelle, but I think Crowley's possibly edging in front of him at the moment. Yeah.
And could it be a case that he's maybe keeping him for the England game? We obviously know a lot of changes.
We don't know. It's all speculation, but I think I just find it interesting that Frawley was given a full 40 minutes, and I would have thought the reasons are Frawley covers a number of positions, including 10. Byrne really covers 10 on his own. You know what I mean? So are they going to go with Sexton and 2 10s that cover multiple positions, for example, in Crowley and potentially Frawley? I think it's noteworthy that Frawley got 40 minutes. Yeah.
And obviously his debut, and just to mention that as well, Calvin Nash and Tom Stewart as well, all making their debuts tonight.
Yeah, and Tom Stewart hit the ground running on the back of his superb season last year for Ulster. He had a couple of key turnovers. He was aggressive carrying the ball in contact. Again, looks like a player who's not going to need a whole lot of bedding in time when he makes that transition to international level. Nash was a little more, a little less involved, but those involvements he had, he showed what he's why he's there. He's very physical in terms of carrying the ball. He takes a bit of stopping. 1 or 2 defenders most of the time from Italy had to get on him. But great moments for them and their families. You know, first cap at home. I'm not so sure Stewart or Nash are going to feature in the World Cup squad, but still nonetheless a great moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Caelan Doris tonight, man of the match. He was very impressive with his turnovers and his 2 tries that he got as well. Do you think that he looks as at home at number 7 than he does maybe at 6 or 8?
Yeah, I think the scary thing with Doris is he looks at home in all 3 back row positions, which is so rare. You know, Pete O'Mahony's obviously played all 3 back row positions. Jack Conan certainly played 6 and 8, but Doris looks completely comfortable in all 3, which is a huge boost for us. You've got an out and out, I think, a very clear starting 7 in Van der Fleer, but to know that Doris can just step in and he does actually bring something different again to the likes of Van der Fleer. Yeah, he continues to be a hugely impressive individual in an Ireland jersey. I don't believe he's ever had a poor game in an Ireland shirt at this stage, which is whatever he is, 25, 30 caps in at this stage. It's pretty impressive, and that versatility in terms of how he carries, how he defends, his versatility across positions, his ability to be a line-out threat, his defensive capacities off scrum and in the breakdown. He's the all-round back row, modern-day back row player. So
you had mentioned Jack Conan there. He was doing well, but he had to go off in the end early in that first half with an injury. We saw him in a protective boot. It could have been precautionary. We don't know. We'll hear more probably when we go down to the press conference. But he will be a loss if it was anything serious.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if he is a loss. I mean, he didn't look in any way in any physical distress. He almost strolled off the field. Potentially he's just had a knock and some bruising, and maybe they're just trying to get a bit of compression or time off his feet and do everything they can. So potentially looks like a sledgehammer to a very small little issue, but I don't believe Jack Conan's in significant physical distress. I would imagine that's precautionary, but I think his contribution in the time he was on the field would have pleased the Irish management hugely. It's one of those games where they really want players to contribute to the group as a whole, as opposed to trying to show what they can do themselves, and I think Conan epitomised that in terms of his link play, his work rate off the ball. I think he physically helped Caelan Doris over the line on one of the tries, literally picked him up and shoved him over. That kind of selflessness and work rate is something the Irish management hugely value, and I think Conan showed that in spades, but also a number of, you'd call them maybe risky offloads, you know, last ditch split second passes when he's about to get nailed in the tackle and they came off. That's of value to any group. He's playing with confidence. He's taking on a little bit of risk and it comes off, and then he's working off the ball in an unsung hero type fashion. So they're the type of things that the management will really, I'd imagine, will highlight during the week to the rest of the group.
Jacob Stockdale, then, you can't help but feel that maybe tonight was the big opportunity to really impress for his last chance maybe to make that World Cup squad.
Yeah, I think I can certainly understand the rationale for his selection. He's always been a player that, you know, with his physique, about 6'3", rapid, you know, and a typically on form, a really good finishing left winger, and you can understand any management looking at a player like that and saying, is there a chance we catch him on a run of form and he jumps into a World Cup squad. Based on his overall performance tonight, I don't think he's going to be included. He died in touch 2 or 3 times. He was tackled into touch as a winger. They're fairly big mistakes as a winger. You don't want to die with the ball. You need to come back in field, keep the ball alive, get to the deck or offload. And a couple of times he did that. Obviously he's trying his heart out to make an impression. And so
did it actually look sometimes he was trying too hard to be everywhere at times.
Yeah. I mean, he had a couple of great impacts. He had a super kick chase and a very athletic in the air catch, running at full pace, and again just showed that athleticism that he has. But when you look at all the other options that are there, I think it's just come a little too soon for him, or a little too late for him. The timing isn't right, and I'd be very surprised based on tonight if he gets an inclusion for a World Cup squad, unfortunately for him.
And Andy Farrell does really like him. You know, he likes a lot about him because he keeps giving him these chances when he's not overly performing greatly for Ulster.
Yeah, but I think that's normal. I think coaches will always have a good instinct on certain players, and there'll be players who are out of form, and to the public, you know, the viewing public and the critics like ourselves, we're not seeing what he's doing in training. We've all seen what he's capable of in the past. And perhaps Farrell and Kat and the rest of the management are looking at this and saying, here's a fella who can do things that others can't. It's just a matter of, can he do it consistently and can he deliver on a World Cup stage? And none of us know that in truth. So purely based on that performance tonight, I don't think he's looking like he's at that kind of top form that he's been in his career. But again, he could be setting the world on fire in training and we don't know about it. But it'll be an interesting couple of weeks ahead in terms of selection. Yes,
another player that are probably up there in the selection talks is Keith Earls. He done well tonight, bar at the end there, that last Italy try was unfortunate for him, but he made his 99th appearance for Ireland today, which is just remarkable.
Absolutely. I think he's been a hugely influential character in Irish rugby and Munster rugby, both on the field and off the field, and a hugely charismatic leader, even though he mightn't be the most verbal fella on the field, but in terms of his actions. I think himself and Stockdale both would have been hugely disappointed with the Italian tries that we conceded tonight. They were 1-to-1 tackles, they were 1-on-1. Stockdale was about 4 or 5 metres out and didn't make that tackle, and Earls in particular had a 1-to-1. He was right on him, he had him marked, and the Italian player just had a bit of a physical edge and a bit of momentum, and I think both players would be hugely disappointed with those individual tackles. But overall, let's not take away from 99 caps from Keith Earls, and so far in an Irish jersey, a massive contribution, and potentially we could see more, who knows.
Yeah, what a player. And you played an Ireland A game with him, you were telling me?
I did. I think it was his first ever. He was 18-year-old and I was probably 30. So, and unfortunately we got an unbelievable hiding at the hands of Scotland. So it wasn't our finest hour in a green jersey, and certainly wouldn't have been his. And thank God he had a far more positive experience in his Irish career after that introduction. So I think the word legend gets thrown around occasionally to willy-nilly, but I think Keith Earls absolutely is right up there in the Hall of Fame type characters in Irish rugby in the last 20 years. So
absolutely has to be. So all in all tonight then a positive night for Ireland, would you say?
Yes, I think overall a positive. Yeah, without sounding too practical and pragmatic, I mean, getting a run out, getting people game time, doesn't appear to be any significant injuries. They're all big pluses in a World Cup warm-up. 5 tries, a win, and and I think even the Italian scores would have been put down on Monday when they look at that. They were 1-to-1 missed tackles as opposed to defensive system errors again. So they're positives. The set piece was pretty stable and strong, both in scrum and line out. Defensive line out in particular was good, and I think kicking game 4 out of 5 off the deck. So all in all, I think they'll be happy enough. Yeah.